welcome to Water Bear Fresh Ideas. I am your host, Toby Moore, and tonight we are going to be having some amazing and exciting talks from Water Bear students sharing their fresh ideas with you. So Water Bear Fresh Ideas is an opportunity for students of Water Bear to share exciting, new and world-changing ideas and concepts that have the potential to change the shape of the music industry forever. So we have three fantastic speakers joining us today. We have Jason, we have Alexia, and we have Zoe Beth, all sharing a completely new and interesting take on their chosen topic and area of the music industry. We're going to be exploring topics from mental health through to sustainability and fast fashion, all the way through to how do we change the way that music is streamed and shared online. Very exciting, very challenging. We are going to be doing a series, well, the format for today is that each speaker will give a 5 to 10 minute talk. I will then grill that speaker for answers to questions that we all need to know, the details and the quandaries that we have that will really bring their idea to life and make it real. Our next speaker is Alexia. Alexia is a songwriter, a producer, and all-round fantastic musician. She is on a mission to democratize the way that DIY music is made, accessed, streamed, and so on. She's got a fantastic vision for what this could look like, both at a product technical level, but also at a utopian level as well, which I'm very excited to hear more about this evening. So, with no further ado, I welcome Alexia to the stage. Hello, Alexia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, fantastic. I am well, thank you very much. I hope I haven't put too much pressure on you for now giving us a utopian vision of music streaming in the future.
I'm just gonna go for it. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you for having me though.
You're welcome. I'm really grateful for you coming here and joining us online. And with nothing left for me to say, the stage is yours. Tell us about your fresh idea.
Okay, so also 2 years ago, just like Jason, an artist I was working with was really into this major label artist that I'm just gonna call Queenie for the purposes of this talk. Don't know if there's a Queenie artist out there, but you know, whatever. So naturally, I went on Spotify to check them out. They're cool, and I skipped through their album, and that was it. And since the last time I listened to them that day, 2 years ago, Queenie is everywhere on my Spotify. They're similar to other artists I like, they're recommended for the day, they have a new release for me. And even though Spotify recently celebrated my unique listening style, I don't see anything similar to Coltrane or Milk Drive or my friend's band that I love. You might have a similar experience if you have kids and Spotify thinks you're really into Baby Shark, even though you spent last night getting drunk and listening to this awesome up and coming band that gives you goosebumps at your local 250-person venue. Or even better, what about that feeling of walking into a bar and randomly finding a band you've never heard of that you would probably listen to all the time if Spotify would think you want to listen to it? Obviously, this was pre-pandemic. But what if those feelings of discovering new music could somehow be translated to an app on your phone, in your pocket, that's readily available? What if you knew you had access to a platform that lets you discover and support music by independent artists on your own terms without your data being hoarded? A platform that allows you to find music that you never even thought you'd like because you didn't know it existed, but that you're now obsessed with. The way things are, algorithms kill diversity and create a homogenous music culture. Maybe you've heard of the term music, a term for background music that was played in department stores or still is played in department stores. And there's a journalist called Liz Pelly who has won awards for an article called The Problem with Music, Spotify's Bid to Remodel an Industry. And it argues that so-called chill playlists, which are promoted everywhere on Spotify, you might have seen it at some point, are a representation of this type of background music. The algorithm favors music and that can be played in the background and leads you to listening to playlists for hours without even noticing what you're listening to. Not only does this approach lead to your music suggestions becoming monotonous, it also takes away artists' creative freedom. They now have to create music that simply fits the criteria of fitting into these Spotify favorite playlists. if they want a chance of getting heard or just generate just a little bit of money from getting streamed. You might think you're discovering new music all the time, but you're missing out on the diversity that the music world offers. And there's so much great music from all over the world that people could love listening to if they were able to discover it. Something new and exciting all the time, so you don't have to get stuck on re-listening to the music of your teenage years at 33. I don't know if you've heard of that study, but basically that's what it said. By the time you're 33, you just keep listening to the music, or supposedly you keep listening to the music you like when you were a teenager. And unfortunately, you're not even really supporting independent artists through streaming services. The democratization of DIY independent music opportunities is an illusion. Major labels have heavily invested in streaming platforms and independent artist services like AWAL. And well-known Spotify playlists like New Music Friday and Rap Caviar are dominated by major label artists. So if you want to discover new music genuinely and organically and support independent artists, a music discovery platform of independent artists, free of algorithms, rooted in the DIY spirit of cultural resistance is for you. Genre fluid, just music and art, free of assumptions made by artificial intelligence on what you might like. Plus, you would be supporting someone who's doing it on their own, creating freely anywhere in the world. Artists and the teams who are putting in hours and hours of work into their craft to create the best music experiences for listeners, but not having a machine behind them that can push them to the forefront. So let's start creating a counterculture, an alternative to the current music discovery options, a balance to algorithm-driven and oversaturated platforms. I'm not really sure what this app or this platform would look like exactly, but for now, I can just start by believing in the power of diverse independent music and the possibility of innovative music discovery without subtle manipulation. I'm going to start looking for artists that are lost to the algorithm and share my discoveries with any music lover I know, even if it starts with a small contribution in the form of a weekly email to my friends. It's time for artists and listeners to plant a seed together and watch a tree grow. Thank you for listening, and that's it.
Wow, Alexia. What a fantastic vision, and you know, truly bringing the fight to the doors of the giants like Spotify and so on, and really interesting. I mean, there are things that you shone a light on there that I've never really thought of in any great detail, and things that I've taken for granted or accepted as normal. And I guess that's exactly what we're trying to do here, because for me, like, the essence of presenting and coming up with fresh ideas is all about challenging that norm, challenging that status quo, providing an alternative that we can genuinely believe in and do something about. So fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. I have written a lot of things that I would like to ask you about, and I'm going to have to very carefully select just a few. The first thing is more a comment than a question. I'm 33, and I'm pretty sure that this week alone I've dug back into at least 3 albums that I discovered as a teenager. The first of which I think was the first Gorillaz album. Oh my God, can you remember listening to that for the first time? And I think I started listening to, I forget the name of the album, whatever album Mr. Jones by the Counting Crows is on. I listened to that today. Well, oh my God. Just give me something to listen to, guys, please. So yeah, I totally, on that alone, I now totally believe what you're saying. You've hooked me, and I'm in.
Yeah, and you know, I can actually say something that right away, because the interesting thing is, because of the study and because of the fact that, you know, we supposedly listened back to stuff that, you know, that we listened to and discovered as a teenager, most of the music industry is targeted towards like younger people. And it's like, if you're 33, you probably don't want to listen to the same type of music that somebody who's 23 or 19 or 18 is listening to.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe that's why you have to keep going back to that, because you're not.
Spotify recommends new music to me, and I listen to it, and I'm like, what on earth is this? Like, and I feel like an old man, because I'm just listening to, like, you know, programmed drums that make no sense to me, like a style of rapping that is just kind of like, that sounds like something that you might have found in a cereal box or something. Like, it just makes no sense. But I am certain that there are new artists releasing music that I will like, and that I will relate to my tastes, I suppose. So anyway, I want to dig into a couple of things that you talked about, because there's some pretty big, lofty things that I want to explore in more detail. You talked about the feeling of discovering new music. And I want you to explain to me why that's an important feeling to have.
I mean, I feel like the first thing to say is discovering music live. That's something, I mean, I don't think anybody has been able to translate into like a digital, into the digital world. It's just not the same when you see somebody live. There's like no way to translate that feeling, I think. But
Mm.
I think there's still an excitement with like finding something where you're like, oh my God, I love listening to this. I want to listen to it over and over again. Like I remember when I was, a kid, I actually would just watch like, well, it was either music videos or sometimes it was like even concerts or whatever, and on TV, and that's how I found something that I really liked. So I think there is a way to still get excited about discovering something you want to listen to outside of like the live music venues, and and nowadays that would be somewhere digital. So and because everything has become more digital, and especially obviously in the last year we're not able to go and listen to live music, we need to find a way to get that feeling, that excitement, and to want to go home and want to listen to like a song or a whole album over and over again. We need to find a way to translate that into something that is now is more available, like an app, because that's like some of the most important, or I think the most exciting thing about music, just discovering this new thing. Like I want to listen to it again, and I want to hear that chorus again, or I want to hear this part again. I want to listen to it over and over again, and then I want to go see the artist live. So
There's this
that's
balance.
why I think it's
There's this balance between, to quote you, finding something new and exciting every day, but then also that act of just diving into it and just submerging yourself into a piece of music and letting it wash over you over and over again. Yeah, and I think it's difficult to emulate that, but I do believe you when you say that we can get closer to it. So I think that's excellent. Another thing I want to sort of pick up and dive into is you talked about an artist and their creative freedom and how a lot of these platforms curtail that. But what does that mean? Like, what does an artist's creative freedom mean? Like, and why is it something we should care about?
So, I mean, I can speak from like personal experience here. So I started having these ideas about how, how I wanted my music to sound, how I wanted to mix different genres and different styles. But the more I worked in the music industry and I was working for, Sings and all that stuff, I started feeling like I have to create things that sell, or now it's like I have to write something that fits into these like these Spotify playlists, because if I can't get on the Spotify playlist, nobody will like hear me, like nobody's going to find me. And also I need to be on the playlist so my songs get played more, and then I can actually make maybe a little bit of money off of it.
Yeah,
So when that starts happening, you're not creating for the music anymore. Now you're like, oh my God, the first 15 to 30 seconds have to grab the listener. Something needs to happen in those 15 to 30 seconds so they keep listening. And now it completely takes away from the freedom to just create something new, to create something different, because like you have to create something that fits in, that sounds like all the other stuff, and everybody's doing that.
yeah.
So that's why it takes away from the creative freedom. And I think creative freedom is it's so important. It's important for just diversity. The whole world is diverse, and if we take away creative freedom, we also take away diversity. And I think that diversity basically makes the world go around. So it's important to find a way to keep that.
Amazing. Thank you. That's great, Alexia. I agree. And creative freedom is something that I find myself exploring and thinking about and talking about a lot as well, which is why it particularly pricks my ears up when I hear you talk about it, because it's also one of those things that is really easy to value, but also very easy to just let go of and lose very quickly without realizing it, from both the creator point of view and the person consuming that as well. There's one last thing I want to ask you, and it's probably the biggest question of them all,
Oh,
and probably the one that you're kind of like, oh, I really hope he doesn't ask this, is like, how do you, and I know that you've given some examples of getting this started and creating that sort of mailing list like kind of product type thing, but how do you really take this fight to the door of the likes of a Spotify? Like, what has to happen in order to see a big enough change?
so I think first of all, I'm not even sure if this is like a fight, with Spotify. If it's like, I think it's more about creating a balance and an alternative. You might be able to, I think it's just about discovery for now. What I'm looking into is like, how can we discover the music first? This discovery platform or something could even be connected to Spotify. We still, as artists, if we want to exist in the music industry, we need people to listen to our, to the streaming, to us on the streaming services. It's important for so many things, but it's like, how do we even get discovered in the first place? We need to find alternatives for that, and that's why I'm not even sure if I'm really directly just fighting. I mean, maybe I'm fighting them because I'm trying to get around the algorithm, so they might not like that. I don't know, because that's what that has to do with, advertisement and all of that, which I can't get into all of that right now. But I think that we first have to start by believing that there can be an alternative to social media and algorithms. It starts with believing in that, because right now all we're focusing on is how can we use these algorithms for our artistry, and how can we play the system, how can we use these social media for us. And it's like, well, how about we start by thinking about, well, maybe this is not working for a lot of us, so we need to find alternatives, and I think that's what we need to focus on. So it's not necessarily fighting, Spotify and being like, it's all crap, we don't need any of that anymore. It's more like finding a way to create a balance and alternative and coexist with them, and just giving an alternative to finding music, to discovering new music that gives more people a chance, and allows you to keep your authenticity.
Yeah, amazing. I totally agree with you. And I think this idea of, well, you've said it, it's about believing in the fact that alternative can exist and should exist. And I think if that's the first stop, then, we can't fail. I think a really, really important thing to focus on here is also what an entrepreneurial kind of mindset that is. Do you know what I mean? It's not about, everyone that's trying to take on the big player in the industry or whatever, you're going up in such a hard fight. And really the entrepreneurial thing to do is to find that niche, find that alternative, and really, really sort of exploit that and grow that and make that a real thing. So fantastic. I think it's such a cool idea, and sign me up to the mailing list. If I have to Mr. Jones one more time this week, I'll go crazy. So Alexia, thank you so much for joining us on Fresh Ideas, a truly fresh idea. Thank you very much, and I'm really, really grateful for you joining us on this session. Our next